Hello and welcome. I'm Tim, and most of my life I've been dreaming about someday sailing around the world. Although I come from a background of being a professional mariner, I know very little about sailing. So maybe you want to come with me and see how we do and learn as we go. And right now in this series we're getting ready to, we are in the midst of making a 1,500-mile ocean passage from New England down to Puerto Rico. So welcome aboard and come on with us. Hope you like and subscribe.
This is the German Coast Guard.
We're thinking.
What are you thinking about?
Hello and welcome. This is SV Paquita. And no, we didn't sink, of course not. A little bit of clickbait for you. My other channel, I dropped one word out of something and people lost their mind about it. So apologize for that. But anyway, so we did have the first time on this boat where we were taking on water. And if you still look, you say, what have you done over here? Well, I ripped everything out because you know what? I should stop and tell you the story. When I was going into Point Judith to get my generator, I have something called a bilge counter. Actually, I can show you this. Look at this over here. See this thing right here that says 000? And see this thing right here? This is a bilge alarm, and this is a bilge counter. And both of those are, they both kind of do the same thing, but do it in a different way. One does it audibly, and the other does it, keeps track of everything. I've zeroed it out since this happened, but that thing's always been at 0, 0. I have a pretty dry bilge. In fact, the only water we get in the bilge is some water that comes down through the mast, and then some, I guess the air conditioners, which are not really running now, they put the condensate into the bilge. So the bilge, you know, it doesn't usually need to get pumped out. And when we got to Point Judith and tied up, I got up one morning and I looked, and we had been out to dinner and all that sort of stuff. Chris and I had wandered around Point Judith waiting for the shipyard to do their thing. And I noticed it said like 42 on the bilge counter. It's like 42 times this thing's pumped out the bilge? Where was we sinking? I couldn't find water anywhere. Couldn't figure it out. Had no idea what was going on. I went from one end of the boat to the other end. I'm listening. Of course, it's in a shipyard, so it's pretty noisy. You know, you can usually hear water trickling somewhere. I couldn't find it anywhere. So for a day, I was looking for water. And then I started thinking to myself, oh, wait a minute. You know, obviously, I'd checked the engine, but I looked around the impeller, the water pump, where the hoses went. Everything was fine. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, oh, you know what? Maybe it's the wet exhaust. So I fired up the engine, and sure enough, there's water coming out of the, well, they call it a mixing elbow. It's 304 stainless, and it's just about a foot long. It's supposed to come in today, so I'll show you some pictures of it. Hopefully I can put them in now. But anyway, the idea is that the hot exhaust comes out of the turbo, then it goes into a smaller, or you know, there's a bigger tube that goes over the top of this, and the excess cooling water is sprayed around the hot pipe and mixed with the exhaust, and everybody's happy after that. So after 20 years or 19 years, even though it's 304 stainless, I think it has more to do with, and remember, stainless is stainless, not stain-free, so it does decay, but I think it has something to do with being on the really hot side versus the really cold side. Where those meet, I think, is where the failure actually happened. So there was a little bit of water coming out of there. Anyway, when it was time for Rick and me to bring the boat back to Watch Hill, we got underway, and the bilge alarm started going off, and so I'd go down there while we're running, and I'd be pumping out. I'd have to pump about 12 or 15 gallons of water, not out of the bilge, but right underneath the engine. There's a drip collection pan. So if you have a oil or fuel leak or something like that, it doesn't go into the bilge and stink things up. You can deal with it right there. Well, anyway, water's filling up right there, and when we started, it was about a 4.5, 5-hour run from Point Judith to Watch Hill, and it started about every 40 minutes or so. I'd take about 15, 3 5-gallon buckets out of from underneath the engine. I was a little concerned because of all the sloshing. I didn't want all that salt to contaminate the lower part of the engine. That would be that would really suck. So anyway, as we got closer, the 40 minutes went to 20 minutes, and by the time we're coming up to the mooring, I'm just pumping all the time. And so what was once just a little bit of a trickle underneath the bottom of where the hot and the cold come together on the pipe, it has now gone all the way around, and water's just pouring out. So as the engine's running, all the cooling water is being dumped underneath it. So when we went to go take it off, it was still together. Sometimes the rubber, because over 20 years the rubber has kind of like mated to the surface of the pipe, you just give it a little tap with a little hammer to try to knock it free, and the two pipes actually broke right in half. It's like we would just tap, 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 tap. It was like nothing. We're like, oh my God, thank God we didn't die, because if that would have happened, then we wouldn't have been able to run the engine. That would have been a disaster. Anyway, we got really lucky with that. So I looked all around, and unfortunately this isn't a Yanmar part. You know what? Let me just show you what we're doing here. So the reason why I have all of that out is because over here I've taken all the bedding out. Underneath the bedding, you can see here is the engine, the back end of the engine. Here's the turbo. The turbo is right here. This pipe we just have up so it doesn't drip. But this elbow comes out here and then bends down, and this thing connects, or it comes up like this and rotates in here, and this is the excess cooling water. It just goes over that way because it goes through a vented loop, so it won't siphon back, and then it goes into here. So the problem with all of this is that it's not a part specific to Yanmar. It's an island packet part because it has to fit in this space right here. So I looked all over, and nobody could seem to point me in the right direction. And if any of you are followers from my other channel, Tim B at Sea, you might remember Captain Courtney Dave from Cape Ann Towing. Well, he knows everything about yachts, and he knows everything about everything. The guy's a brilliant guy. Anyway, he put me in touch with a guy, and he goes, Tim, they're really expensive, but they're really good. All they do is law enforcement, security, and high-end yachts. It's a stainless steel fabricator that just makes exhaust elbows. And I called the guy, and I overnighted him the old parts, and after a few days he calls me back and he goes, yeah, we can make that. Says, I need 12 days and $1,300. It's like, oh my God. This thing, I think it's like a half a pound of stainless steel in it. But anyway, it is what it is, and so now we've been waiting. Our 12 days have turned out to be more like 18 days, and Rick and I are losing our weather window to leave Watch Hill to go down to Deltaville, Virginia, where we're going to leave the boat while I go back to work, and then we'll come back, and then the whole crew will assemble in Deltaville, and if we get the right weather window, we head to Puerto Rico. So the good news is, according to Federal Express tracking, this thing's supposed to land today, and if we get it, we'll get it installed, obviously sea trial it and test it, make sure everything's cool, and then Rick and I are off. And so, wish me luck. Oh, hey, I was starting to tell you that I was concerned about the salt underneath the oil pan in the bottom of the engine from the water that was in there getting sloshed around. So just to tell you what we did, and I'm hoping that it was a good thing, when we got back and the engine cooled down and everything was cool, I got my freshwater hose and just poured a ton, squirted everything down in the engine room with fresh water to try to blow as much salt off of everything that I could. And obviously we pump all that out and cut all that dry. And then, because we didn't have anything there, we had WD-40, which is, if you didn't know this, the WD in WD-40 is for water displacement. It's the 40th formula they came up with. Anyway, we soaked the bottom of the engine and everything else around there with WD-40, hoping to dry it up. The problem with WD-40 is that as the engine heats up, once it gets running again, it's liable to flash off. And I don't mean flash off like it's going to explode. I mean it's just not going to continue to protect. in worrying about this, I talked to a couple people, and actually it was my super broker, the guy that hooked me up with this boat. He told me about this stuff. It's called Corrosion X. And reading about it, I guess it's very prevalent in the airline industry. So it's supposed to be great. And what's supposed to be good about it is it's supposed to stay in contact and in form up to 200 degrees. And as you guys know, if this engine is doing its thing, it shouldn't get up past 200 degrees anyway. So I just haven't sprayed the bottom of this yet because I was waiting until I got the bed out, and I'm probably going to do that now. But now that the WD-40 has done its job, we're hopefully going to put the elbow on today. I'm going to spray everything down with this Corrosion X, and hopefully you won't hear about me having to pull the engine to replace an oil pan because it rusted out because of this fiasco. Anyway, that's that. All right, see ya. Hey, I'm hoping you guys can bear with me for a little while. I wanted to get some content out to you before we left on our trip. But you guys should be seeing this while we are making preparations to get the boat ready, like in a few days. I think this video is going to launch like on the weekend, and hopefully by Thursday or so we'll be off and headed offshore, and we won't have internet for a long time. So if you don't see anything for a while, don't worry. It doesn't mean we've died or anything like that. And in fact, I'll even give you guys a link to where I'll try to put it in the comments below. You know, in the description below, I'll put a link in there for a tracking page. Now, that, just to let you know, this is a satellite tracking page. So in other words, right now, as of the time of me recording this, I've tested it out, and it says that we're in New York because that's where we were when I turned the tracker on and got everything working. I'll bring that tracker with me and put it on the boat in Deltaville, Virginia, and when we get underway, at least twice a day there'll be pings that will show you where we are, and give you our boat speed, location speed, and I think the weather there, and I even have a little thing there that I can write comments in too. So hopefully once we get underway, which should be hopefully, God willing, weather permits, around the 11th or 12th of November, we should be able to get offshore, and you guys will be able to follow us tracking all the way across to our trip until we get to Puerto Rico or die trying. Anyway, and while that's happening, I'll be making content, but obviously I won't have a way to upload it. The satellite tracking just puts like just a couple characters out, as opposed to, you know, most of my videos are about 12 gigabytes long to upload. So I'll be making content, but just give me a little break. It's going to take me a little while to get there, and it'll take me a little while to get everything going. But we'll get it out to you. Thank you so much for coming along, and see you guys on the one.